Okay, good morning and welcome everyone to our monthly webinar for March. And our topic for this morning is how to generate interest in your mentoring program. This is one that I think we're all quite excited to talk about. It's one that comes up quite a lot in conversation with people we work with. And we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to run at a brisk pace. We've set ourselves the time limit of roughly half an hour, hopefully with some time in the end there as well to do some Q&A. You should have the option to select the Q&A little feature as we go, but obviously we won't get to them till the end, and you'll also be able to remember some of those questions maybe, and you can whack them in at the end as well. So who are we? Who have we got with us this morning? My name is Guy. I'm going to be your host this morning, and I'm joined by Heidi Holmes, our co-founder and COO of Mentorloop, and Lance Hodgson, who is our marketing manager, and he's based out of our Sydney office. So I hope you can hear us, Lance.
I can, although it's quite the distance. Technology is pretty amazing.
Yes, and Heidi here. Good morning, everyone.
Alrighty, so before I run through the agenda, I want to kick off a quick poll, and the question is very straightforward. Should pop up now. We're keen to find out who is currently mentoring in their organisation. Simple yes or no answer. And while that's running, so our agenda to whip through this morning. So we're going to start with, I guess, the bigger picture items and work down. So I'm imagining this is going to be a little bit like a funnel. So we're going to start with defining your why, so the purpose of the program, defining the target audience, who we want to be involved, how we communicate our why. So focusing on the benefits will be the topic to discuss there. Some communications, I guess a strategy that sits behind that, how we go from translating that actual awareness into registered program participants. And then the last point is around keeping people excited and engaged. And obviously, like I've already said, we will finish with a bit of Q&A. Without further ado, defining your why. So Heidi, I'd love to hear from you on this one.
Great. Guys, so look, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Simon Sinek, who always says start with why. And so just to go back on the poll, Guy, what's the participants at in terms of currently running a mentor program, or?
Well, it's actually 50-50.
50-50. So this is interesting. So this is kind of relevant for whether you're running a program or looking to start. And for those that already might be running a program, we always ask organisations we work with to go back and revisit this. So we all know mentoring is inherently a good thing, but in order for us to be able to measure success, we need to understand why we're doing it. And so from our experience with working with people, we help them better define their why. And we know that mentoring can be deployed in a variety of different ways. And some of those are listed here in that slide. But with the organisations we work with, we generally find fall into one of these categories. And with whatever your why is, a good why should be something that you are able to clearly articulate. And it should be something that will help you define and measure success as your program progresses. So we're currently working with a mining company that's always been running an informal mentor program for their graduates and apprentices. And it's something they've always done and something they value. But no one ever really knew why they did it. And so we were able to help them drill down from, people like it and it's just a part of the onboarding process, to actually, we have a problem with graduate retention and people feeling isolated. So the why moves from something that is, this is something we just offer, to actually something far more powerful, in that we want to provide a workplace where people feel safe and a part of the team from the very first day they join. So you can see here that with this well-defined why, it makes it easier to put some parameters in place to measure against this as the program matures. And for example, with this particular program, some metrics were put in place around retention and engagement.
Nice. Okay. So I guess the next point around that is, you mentioned kind of metrics already, but I'm just going to continue on in the interest of time to defining a target audience. So once we've got our why, it's kind of, who does that apply to? I guess is the question.
Yeah, exactly. And look, guys, kind of bring it back to marketing 101. And this again ties back to ensuring success of your program. So we have to link it back to who are we talking to here and why do they want to participate in the mentor program? So again, using those sort of buckets of whys we've got here, we can see a sort of phased approach. So in taking the mining, the example of the mining company again, while they were originally targeting two groups of people internally, so the graduates and apprentices, they were two very different audiences. So graduates were typically in head office related roles, where apprentices were often on the tools, working in remote work sites. So you can see in this particular example that the two individual groups would have very different outcomes they would want to achieve as part of the program. So in most cases, the clients we work with are starting with a program for the first time. We recommend starting with a very well-defined target audience and then building out on the program from there. So, the challenges with starting with a company-wide approach to mentoring with no clear value prop will make it challenging to get people to buy in and feel excited about the program from the beginning. So again, having a well-defined why that is relevant to your specific target audience are just the first two steps in setting your program up for success.
Nice, thanks, Heidi. I've got a few questions, but I might save them to the end because I'm just going to keep interrupting and slow this whole thing down. Alrighty, so I guess we've defined our why, we've defined our target audience. So the next piece is around how are we actually going to, translate that message, get that message across. So I know, Lance, this is an area that you've got quite a lot of expertise and experience in.
Yeah, so I think at this point, it's about putting your marketing hat on and thinking about kind of, in this case, in my case, it'd be a prospect, but in this case, it's a mentor or mentee. And basically, you should always be thinking what's in it for me, in the sense of not I, but in the sense of the reader or viewer. So I think here, you need to kind of change your lens. So obviously, you've been looking at your mentoring program as an internal tool, but why would they want to join? What's in it for them? So what does that look like? Basically, in your communications messaging, anything external facing, it's not kind of we are running this mentoring program to increase retention at X company. It's we are running this mentoring program to accelerate your development and help you feel more satisfied at work. So just that kind of minor shift, it really understand what's in it for them, which at the end of the day, as selfish as it sounds, is about. So we found that kind of a number of companies get talking about why is running the program or the logistics of the program.
But I suppose the main takeaway there is it's kind of coming back to that WIFM, isn't it? That what's in it for me, applying that to the individual and not that company level. So it's kind of like you said at the start, changing the lens. So let's just talk about that comm strategy. So we've now got an idea of what we want the messaging to actually be. How do we get it across?
Yeah, so I think there's a few methods in the past and that our clients have used in the past. So if you go to the next slide, and I'm sure it's the method that a lot of people have used, or the channel that a lot of people have used, and that's email. So obviously email is a tool that we all use day to day, so it's kind of an easy go-to. Basically, the pros of using email, obviously easy to set up and execute. It should be seen, so at a minimum, you're going to kind of get 20%. You change subject lines, you're going to get more things. A bunch of people seeing the email. Things you can manipulate the messaging easily, so it's easy to change and adjust. Obviously, you can send out different emails to different groups. You can also easily change the sender, so it can come from the CEO to exhibit executive buy-in, which is really powerful. And it's also kind of the shortest channel from A to B. So you insert a link to your survey or to your form, and then kind of it's easily navigable that way. Downsides of good old email, it's very transactional in nature. So, if someone doesn't read it today or tomorrow, the email kind of gets buried, and so does potentially that person's participation. Demand is also constrained to those who you select to email, so you don't get any kind of people coming across something by chance and saying, oh, that looks interesting. And although it's kind of a powerful tool, we'll do it that it's, I don't want to say boring, but it's not exciting. But yeah, email is kind of, it's a good way to kind of start it and get a lot of things. Yeah, so here we have obviously the intranet. So depending on how you operate that, basically an internal website for employees typically, Or if you have a program that's run for external people, you can obviously have it up on your marketing side as well. But basically here, kind of the pros above and beyond email, it can continue to live there infinitely. So it attracts kind of after day one. Looks more professional, so the program is very intentional, and it's a core offering, so it kind of brings that importance to it. The web is how we're used to signing up for things, so it fits in with our natural workflow, which is really nice. It's kind of what people get used to. And then obviously you can, as you can see, the OBAR client there included a register and login buttons. So not only can you get registrations on the web, a place that they can kind of naturally gravitate. So on a daily basis, it can be a really powerful tool. So collateral. So again, pretty basic. So, it's a good starting point for a lot of companies. You can obviously have your marketing team or design team create flyers or one sheets, things like that, proposals, or you can delve a little bit deeper and have a little bit higher production value as well and go for things like video, which the IPA did there, as you can see, and that was their CEO, Andrew Conway, which again showed that executive buy-in, which is really powerful. So collateral's good. It looks pretty most of the time if you get someone who has a decent design eye to do it. Stays on brand. It's a very efficient way to compile information. So get to that what, where, why pretty quickly, and obviously have a link again to sign-in process. And they're obviously very versatile. So you can send them via email. You can link to them on the intranet. You can paste them up around the office. So the good thing about collateral is, it's very versatile and pretty basic. So easy to get on the ground floor.
Yeah, and I might just jump in there too, Lance, for this IPA example. I mean, we've got the CEO talking there in this particular video. And what we found with this was when the messaging is coming from the top, it really gets people excited to buy into the program as well. So having a person of influence within your organization to emphasize the importance of the program and that they believe in it is hugely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I was going to try and show the first 30 seconds of this video, but I'm not sure we'll risk it with our current internet connection here in Melbourne. Apologies. I know there's a couple of people I've seen on the call have already seen it, but I'll share it with everyone as well. But definitely a really, really good way of going about kind of getting the message out. All right, let's go to the next slide, Lance.
Yeah, so the next one, and the one obviously where we sit and add the most value, is mentoring software. So basically we kind of call these portals or program portals, and basically, operates kind of like the intranet, but it's basically a designated space for people to go to sign up for the program. And you can show kind of people what that looks like as I talk about it a little bit, Guy. So basically it's designed, this is for BBC, the big broadcaster in the UK. So it's designed basically to stay tightly on brand. We usually take control of kind of the design aesthetic here, but basically easily navigable, obviously, again, kind of pointing to that ease of use, which Heidi will talk about a bit later. The good thing about this is it can either be transactional, so you can send a link and say, hey, this is our program, join up, and they can kind of get a little bit of background, dive in a little bit deeper before they join. But it's also something that can live on indefinitely too. So it can live inside or outside of your intranet and be somewhere where people can come back to log in, sign up, share the link with other people as well. So it's also that balance between collateral, intranet, and email. It's kind of the sweet middle ground. So yeah, this is one of the things that we like to do for our clients, because we see kind of much bigger, more interest, and then bigger uptake as well amongst mentors and mentees. So it can work really well if you have sufficient funds to invest in a mentoring software platform.
And I'm just going to jump in there, Lance, too. I think, for us, this is where we talk to around organizations building an internal culture of mentoring. So I touched on earlier, you might start with a small pilot group, but over time, we want organizations to move from this siloed approach to mentoring, that there's a specific start and end date, to something that it's always on. It happens organically within your business. Everyone can access it. and it's visible to everyone. And I think this portal is, you know, it makes sense as well at the very start with that pilot group, but it's something that grows with your program as you move through that maturity of your mentor program.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm liking this webinar. I'm not doing much talking at all. All right, so let's what am I doing? I can't navigate though. Very
Just stick
strange
to the
things
slides,
going on.
guys.
I'm trying.
Stick
I
to
know.
the
I keep
slides.
clicking on this. Jesus, I won't be on the next one. All right. So let's translate that awareness then, Heidi, into, you know, how do we get those people to register?
So yeah, so you've defined your why, you've articulated who your target audience is, and you've put in place this beautiful comms strategy, including setting up that portal. People are excited. They're like, where do I sign up? So you don't want to undo all this good work by now injecting friction into the onboarding process. And I think this is where we've specifically worked with clients where this has potentially been a problem, where maybe they're moving from a place of using spreadsheets and emails to manage their mentor program, to make
on this
it
webinar right now.
Yeah, to make it easier for people to onboard themselves. And I think even where programs have been slightly more sophisticated, where they may have had a Google form set up, or even you know, a Word doc as a questionnaire, what we've typically seen in that sign up application process is very long-winded forms where they're collecting lots of different data from the participants. That can take, you know, upwards of 20 minutes to complete. And I think we need to acknowledge at this point that people are time poor, and people feel like they've given a lot of this information before. So making the application process as smooth and as simple as possible, but more importantly, tying it back to your why. Why are we running this? Why do these people want to participate? And what does success look like? And what's the WIFM, you know, as Lance, you know, why do these individuals want to partake? We need to make sure that those ingredients are included in the application form, and not sort of, you know, superficial data that we don't need. And so this is where, again, we can come in and help you design that application form to, one, make sure it's not overwhelming for the individuals participating, but you're collecting relevant data that is going to lead to more informed quality matches, as well as a more accurate profile of that individual in the platform. So we might jump into just a quick example on the next slide. Thanks, Guy.
Let's give it a go. See how my navigation's going. But let's jump back to here, I think.
So just clicking on the sign up now, we can see that from that mentoring portal, with one click, which with a clear call to action, they're taken through to the recruitment form, which is where they will then input, you know, some basic profile data, including name, organisation, title, but also we start to drill into why are they participating in the program. You know, what are the goals or objectives they want to achieve, and what are the key milestones throughout the program.
Our internet is really struggling today. Sorry, everyone.
Anyway, we can
Let's
come
keep
back
moving.
to that.
We're on a strict schedule. Oh, maybe it's come up. Here we go.
So yeah, this is just page one, an example of this onboarding piece. So again, it's a really, you know, user-friendly, conversational type of application form, rather than a very, I guess, one-dimensional input here, you know, overload with too many questions that don't mean anything to the individual.
Yeah, I think you're right. I come back to that equation. It's about minimizing that difficulty. And part of it is, you know, maybe having a portal or a simple sign-up process, but it's also, you know, working out backwards planning from your why. What is the kind of actual data we need to be capturing to do effective matches? And then you're kind of not overdoing it. You know, don't ask questions we don't need to ask, because they're only going to, you know, increase the difficulty of applying. Yeah,
and I think you know, one of our biggest things at Mentorloop is about making mentoring more accessible for more people. And again, this ties back to, you know, a very friendly, a user experience that is accessible for people. So, and that's in terms of timing. So it's quick to do, but it also is relevant to their individual needs.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty, let's jump back here. So the last point we wanted to talk about was just about sort of keeping people interested and engaged. So you know, at this point in time, we can assume that you've all done a great job at you know, marketing the program, you know, getting buy-in, getting people to, you know, register their interest, we've gone through the matching. And the next thing we want to do is keep them engaged. However, we did say we only had half an hour. And unfortunately, I suspect that might be a webinar for another day. But it's certainly, you know, just as important. As that ongoing piece is just as important as getting people in from the outset.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in there again, Guy, because I just love talking. But no, and I think just on this piece of keeping people interested and engaged as well, that if you've set expectations clearly up front and people know why they're participating in this program and what's expected of them, then that's part of the challenge here in keeping people interested and engaged going forward.
Some of that groundwork you've already done is, you know, a huge contributor to this piece
Absolutely.
as well. This might be a webinar for another day, so watch this space if you're interested in the future. So I want to open the floor now to some Q&A. I'm hoping I can bring up some questions. Bear with me. So now's the time to pop in any questions you've got. I've got one from Chris already. Oh, this might be one for you, Heidi. So is there a simple definition of what mentoring actually is? The elevator pitch, if you like.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something that I guess comes up in this conversation around mentoring versus coaching. And we appreciate that mentoring can be a very charged word, that it does evoke a lot of opinions from people. And we don't necessarily live by one specific definition. But for us, mentoring it's evolved basically from what it was 30 years ago. In viewing it as this hierarchical relationship where it had to be someone that, you know, had 20 plus years experience mentoring, you know, the junior colleague. Yeah. For us, mentoring is much more dynamic than that, and much more fluid. So we see it as a proposition where potentially a mentor could be someone that's only a couple of years ahead of you. And in fact, we're at a day and age now where an individual can play the role of both a mentee and a mentor. So for us, it's just about, I guess, a curiosity to learn and to better yourself, and a desire to also give back to that process of mentoring.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't add my 2 cents then because we'll go on forever. But another question from Anonymous. So we find it harder to generate interest for mentors. What do you recommend? This is a really good question when we get quite a bit. What do you say to that one, Heidi?
Yeah, I think this is where, I guess, you know, naturally there's a value proposition for the mentees. You know, everyone thinks it's all for the mentee. But again, this is switching our mindset around thinking what mentoring is and actually acknowledging that this is not just about, you know, paying it forward for the mentors. There is huge value in a mentoring relationship. And I think we've seen this particularly around, the obvious example is reverse mentoring. Yep. So where actually mentors are able to gain insights from maybe a younger generation. They're able to gain insights into, you know, the challenges their employees may face at different levels within the business. So there's a huge amount of learning for the mentors, but I appreciate that this is maybe not properly articulated in that comms strategy. So again, this is where we can help by bringing it back to the why are you doing this. You can then start to pull out, you know, what are those things that are going to be of interest to the mentor? What are those things that are going to be relevant to them to make them want to put their hand up? And I think as well, flipping, you know, how people look at mentoring is important to acknowledge that, yes, you may be a mentor, but maybe in the future there's an opportunity to be a mentee too, because I think in this day and age, you know, everyone is fully aware of the importance of continuous learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I'd just like to add as well there, Heidi, I think what's important too is there's an expectation amongst a lot of people that mentors, and you kind of spoke to this, but say have 15 years experience, 10 years experience, and that they're going to know exactly what to do. And I think one of the most important things, going back to that kind of number of registrations equals desire minus difficulty, is explaining and lowering the barriers to entry for potential mentors. So if you have 3, 4, 5 years experience, you can definitely still be a mentor, and you don't have to know what you're doing. And it's something that, you know, with Stay Software, there's helpful tools that can guide you through the process. There's Google that can help guide you through the process. So I think it's lowering the barriers to entry and expectations of kind of, you know, what being a mentor looks like and what you need to have done to be a mentor as well.
All right, so we might end there. We've managed to stick to our time limit of half an hour. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this morning. We will make this recording available probably in about 24 hours time, so we'll be able to share it, you know, with wider team members that you're working with. It'll be on our website as well. And we do have another couple of bits of collateral we'll be sharing with you as well as a thank you for attending. But any questions, you please feel free to email me, guy@mentorloop.com. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next webinar. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.